Hello everybody, it's Kia Sangria here, back with a new video. Today I'm going to be making this Harley Quinn suit using Simplicity's pattern 8434. And I have been looking forward to making a Harley Quinn suit for a very long time. This is my first time using the classic pattern, so let's get into it. As of now, I've already cut out my pattern pieces, but this is what it looks like laid out. So you will be using black spandex and red spandex in order to create this costume. My spandex is from Spandex House in New York City. For this project, I am going to be using some red thread and black thread. And I am just going to go ahead and thread my machine so that we can get started on this. And this video is sped up, but threading your machine is pretty easy, and I do have a video on how to do that a couple of videos back on my channel. So after I get my machine threaded, I'm just going to take a piece of scrap from my fabric and just test out some stitches just to make sure that I'm using the correct stitch length and stitch width for this project. Since I'm working with spandex, I am going to be using a zigzag stitch and I'm going to be using a walking foot on my machine. And here's how it looks. So to start with, I am going to be sewing the front of the costume. This is the front bodice. I'm going to be attaching the red and black together. At this time, I've already sewn 2 darts on either side as per the pattern instructions, so I'm just attaching these pieces together to form the front. And please work slowly with this. Spandex can be slippery, so it's important to really take your time when working with it. I used to rush back when I first started sewing, but I've completely learned my lesson now in order to get proper and neat stitches. I'm also one of those people that pin to hell. I put pins in everything, and I'm not afraid to do that because it just ensures that I get like the results that I want. So if you're like me, just pin away to make sure that you're doing it right. And for this project, I will be back stitching at some steps just to ensure that the stitches are as secure as they can be. And here's the front, nice and done with 2 darts in the red part and the black part. So I'm going to start on the pants. I am using my serger for this just because I know that with my serger I can cut the fabric while I sew. This just ensures that my results are super neat and super clean. So I absolutely love using my serger for spandex projects. It's also just a lot quicker to use a serger than a standard machine. But unless you sew as much as I do, there is no reason whatsoever for you to run out and get a whole other machine. Your standard sewing machine will work just fine as long as you're using a walking foot and a zigzag stitch. But I absolutely love the results that a serger gives me. And for spandex, I am using the 3-thread overlock function. So I'm only using 3 threads instead of 4. But look how clean that is. It's so clean. So the funnest part about making a Harley suit, especially the classic one, is the diamonds. They're iconic and they're relatively easy to do. So the pattern that I'm using actually comes with like a pattern for the diamonds. So I'm taking 2 blocks of spandex, 1 black, 1 red, and I am going to be using some paper-backed fusible webbing in order to make my appliques. Appliquing on spandex is something that I usually shy away from, but because this costume means a lot to me, I am going all in and I'm going to try my best to work with this. This is my first time working with fusible webbing. I have never used it before, so this was a first time for me, but it's very easy to use, and I'm a little upset that I didn't start using it earlier when it came to certain projects. I have made this suit before, but I did not attach my appliques correctly. I kind of just cut out the spandex pieces and then just sewed them on top of the other pieces of spandex without putting anything in between. And when you know better, you do better. So we're gonna do it right today for the very first time. So I'm just pinning my spandex pieces to the fusible webbing because we're actually gonna press this with an iron in order to fuse it together. So I'm gonna cut off the excess because I was not neat when I cut off the fusible, but it's fine. I don't really use it often, so if I'm a little bit wasteful, I'm not really concerned. Now, pressing spandex is not recommended, so when you do use an iron for this step, be sure to use it on a low heat setting. I'm using an Aliso iron, which is specifically made for sewing, so I'm gonna go ahead and use my iron on the synthetic function. In this case, I'm going to use this synthetic setting in order to iron the fusible webbing to my spandex pieces. Now, when you use fusible paper-backed webbing, it works really quickly, and basically one side is like a glue, so when you put fabric on top of it and press it with an iron, they stick together instantly. It's actually pretty cool. And I'm just going to repeat this step for both pieces. As you can see, I'm kind of getting a little bit of the glue on my pressing mat, but that's okay. I kind of just throw this in the wash after each project. So to cut out the pattern, I'm just going to literally lay it on top of the black and the red pieces of fabric, and I'm just going to cut it out that way. There's probably another way to do it, but I do not know it, and I found that to be a lot easier. It kind of sucks doing it this way though, because I won't really be able to use that piece again. So the next time that I decide to make a Harley suit like this one, I'll have to make my own diamond pattern, but I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and like cut out the pieces using the pattern given to me. And this is really time consuming. I spent a lot of time doing this, but that was because I really wanted to make sure that all of my diamonds were similar in size. And cutting it out this way was very tricky. So if you watching this know another way to do this, please let me know, because as I take on more projects that call for this, I do want to make sure that I'm doing it right. I did kind of struggle here, but my diamonds were even, so it was worth it. So I'm struggling a little bit. I'm pretty sure you guys can see that, but I wanted to keep this clip in here anyway because I really wanted you guys to see how much precision I am trying to take when it comes to this costume. That's the beauty of making like costumes like this yourself. I am not one of those people that must have a professional, you know, factory made looking type of item. I don't really mind if my costume looks like I made it, because I did and I'm proud of it. So yeah, I just take my time with these things, guys. You know, making cosplay it's time consuming, but it's really exciting to do, and I wouldn't trade this skill for the world, honestly. And if you feel the same way I do, please leave a comment below. I love hearing from like other cosplay crafters and just people who make their own things, because it's a really cool skill to have. I'm really proud of myself that I can even do stuff like this. All right, so now that I have gotten through cutting all my diamonds, I am just going to mark out what is the front and back of my pants piece, just because the amount of diamonds I have on the front is going to be different from the amount of diamonds I have on the back. So I want to just make sure which side is which when I'm trying to do my placement. So to attach my applique, I am going to take the back off of the applique. What I used before is, again, paper backed fusible webbing. So that means that there is a paper back attached to my applique, and I'm not going to be able to attach it until I remove it. So I'm just going to pull one of these guys up and take the paper backing off of it, and then I'm gonna go ahead and attach it to my pants piece once I'm happy with the placement, that is, because once you fuse this to your fabric, you will not be able to move it again. So you need to be sure that these diamonds are exactly where you want them to be, because there are no do-overs when it comes to this. Now I do not own a pressing cloth and I really should. So I'm just going to use a clean wash towel as a pressing cloth for right now. And I'm just going to put my hot iron on top of it. I will move it around a little bit just because I don't want to risk burning the spandex, but you really want to make sure that you get those appliques adhered. If you don't, it's okay, but you do want them adhered enough that they stay in place, because after we fuse them to the spandex, we are going to sew these down with some stitching. So just take your time and try to get them as fused as you possibly can. So these aren't moving, they're not moving too much for me, so I'm pretty happy with that, but I'm gonna just press a little bit more just to make sure that those are really on there. And you'll repeat this step for both sides of the pants and your sleeves. And this is a very time consuming step, but it is worth all of the extra time and effort you put in, because again, once you fuse these, you will not be able to move them around after that. So you really want to make sure that these are where you want them to be. You don't want to put them someplace and then when you have the full costume together, you're not happy with the placement. So there is no reason to rush, guys. Take your time with this step. Now to attach these, I had to experiment with some satin stitching. As you can see, the bottom buckled, but the top stitching portion looks really good. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use that setting to attach the diamonds to the costume. And so for this, I am using a zigzag stitch with a walking foot. You can probably sew spandex without a walking foot, but I do not recommend that. And this is definitely a step that you take your time on, because these stitches are on the outside of your costume, so you really want to make sure that you take your time to make these neat. As neat as you possibly can, because we can only do our best around here, but you really want to do what you can to make those diamonds look good. And as you can see, I'm going slow and steady with this machine. I don't want to rush. I want to make sure that these diamonds are properly attached, because I really want this costume to look good. I want these diamonds attached securely, but I want them attached neatly. And you can get both as long as you take your time. So once you're done with that, this is what you should have. So to finish attaching everything together, I'm going to go ahead and start sewing up my sleeves. So I'm just going to pin those together right sides. And to attach them, I'm going to go ahead and use my serger. I do have the blade on my serger on just so I can keep the edges really neat. You'll repeat the same step with the other sleeve as well. And again, as you can see, using a serger just makes everything so much quicker. So for the pants, which is a little bit tricky, you're going to attach both sides of the pant, both the black and the red, right sides together. If you're doing this properly, you should kind of have a little swoop on both ends of your pant. You're just going to go ahead and pin both of those things together. I'm doing this because I plan on doing a fitting, but if you're confident about the fit, you can go ahead and just leave one side open for your zipper. But I want to do a fitting, so I'm going to sew both sides of these together. And again, using my sweet serger just makes everything so much quicker. But you do not need to run out and get one, I promise. You can easily do this with a zigzag stitch on your standard sewing machine. I can't stress that enough. So for the crotch, you're just going to match up those two seams on either end. And I clip and pin those together because I really want those to be as even as possible. And then I'm just going to go ahead and go down the pant legs and just pin these together. And as you can see, I'm using a lot of pins, but I would rather, you know, use a ton of pins than get like an inaccurate stitch on my project. So after that, I'm just going to go ahead and run this through my serger, and I'm going to just sew up the entire pant so that we can just do a proper fitting just to see how everything looks. So I'm just going to finish stitching this up, and then we're going to just try on the pants to see where it's sitting. So moving on, since I'm happy with the fit of my pant, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the top again. Now I'm going to be attaching the back pieces to the front that we completed at the beginning of our project. So I'm just going to pin those pieces together, and then we're going to stitch up the side seams and the shoulder seams, leaving an opening for our armholes. And again, if you take away anything from me today, it's don't be afraid to use all the pins that you have available to pin your project. Use each and every single one you have if you need to. Okay, so now that that's all pinned, I'm just gonna go ahead and run those pieces through my serger. And I am using the blade just to make sure that everything is neat and even. So once this step is complete, I'm going to leave it here, and in my next video, we're gonna just go ahead and pick up where we left off and get started on attaching everything together. This suit will not take you a lot of time to make. It's very fun, but definitely take your time when doing it. You won't regret it. And now our top piece is done. So then we will be able to go ahead in my next video and start attaching that to the bottoms. So here's where I'll leave you. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been part 1. Part 2 will be coming out in a few days. So make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you like and leave a comment for me down below. And I will see you guys in my next video where we're going to finish this suit off. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.